The South Australian Government is seeking to put the heat on the opposition leader Mr Malinowski after some Freedom of Information requests revealed some controversy regarding the staff complaints within the offices of some Labor MPs. I spoke with the Treasurer Rob Lucas about these allegations a short while ago. What is the content of this FOI and what does it tell you about the culture in the Labor Party?
Well, I think what is made clear is that there's a toxic culture within the Labor Party, and I guess the question now really comes back to Mr Malinowski. He sought to take the high moral ground in relation to behavioural issues with members of Parliament and the way they treat their staff. So now that there are 4 Labor MPs, 2 on his front bench and 2 former front benches, where staff have obviously raised concerns about issues in their office and the treatment by others within the office, that he really has to indicate now what he's going to do about the behavioural standards of some of his members.
Well, the government wanted to stage an inquiry into this within the Parliament, if I understand correctly, but it was shut down by Labor and the crossbenchers. Is that right?
Well, look, there have been a number of inquiries and issues, I guess not specifically in relation to these 4 issues, because these have only really come to light as a result of Freedom of Information requests from members of the media, frankly. I think it basically all started or stemmed from the issues that related to Jane Stinson when she stood down suddenly from the front bench, and then there were issues being raised in the media at that time about issues within her office, and as a result of that, a number of media organisations lodged FOI requests. It's only been in the last couple of weeks, I think, that these FOI requests have seen the light of day. So it does come back. I mean, Mr Malinowski obviously was aware of some of the issues in Jane Stinson's office. He indicated he had a discussion with her at the time she stood down from the front bench, so he needs to really indicate, A, what he knew at the time, what he did about it, but more particularly now that these Freedom of Information request responses are public, what he is going to do about it in relation to issues between staff and MPs and other staff in the offices of these MPs.
Is the government now, on the back of this data that's come out today, looking at relaunching an inquiry, getting an inquiry back up and running within the Parliament into this and the previous allegations that were shut down?
Well, look, at this stage, we've had I guess, whether you designate it as an inquiry or not, it was certainly a report which was done by the Equal Opportunity Commission, if you remember, and that's actually reported and made a series of recommendations. We do now have a joint committee of the Parliament having a look at a whole range of things like codes of conduct, which do relate to the way MPs treat members of the public, members of staff, and obviously other members of Parliament as well, together with a range of other issues in terms of how you manage staff conflict and bullying and harassment allegations. So I think at this stage that's probably the forum for further consideration of some of these issues. The Joint Select Committee, which involves members of both houses of Parliament, Labor and Liberal, and crossbench members as well, is probably the vehicle to try and throw some light on, I guess, what are the solutions, rather than necessarily just trying to further identify other problems.
And the last thing, the material that has been put out in the public the last 24 hours, did the media ask about all members of Parliament, or have they just chosen to reveal information about Labor?
It was all members of Parliament, so there are obviously a number of Labor members, but I think there are also 4 crossbench members of Parliament. Look, the honest answer in relation to this is there are always examples where there are personality conflicts between individuals, which may well be between an MP and a staff member, and that may well be Labor, Liberal or crossbench members. I think where it becomes an issue of concern, where there's a pattern of behaviour where in a short period of time, this only covers 3 years, you may well see, 2, 3 or 4 individual examples of staff conflict or problems, and it's at those occasions when you need to start thinking seriously, or maybe this is not just an isolated incidence of personality differences or an inability to work together, but something more significant which needs to be addressed.
So serendipitously in this instance, though, there's no members of your government identified as having these issues in the latest data?
Yeah, that's right. I must admit, that was a surprise to me as well, because this was lodged for all members of Parliament, and as I said, going back over the years, I know there have been examples where there have been differences of opinion between Liberal MPs and staff members, and and particular issues of conflict. But for this 3-year period, it was only Labor members and 4 crossbench members of Parliament that have been identified as having already had issues raised with the section in Treasury which handles these.
Well, Treasurer Rob Lucas, thanks for your time with us today.
Pleasure. Good to talk.